all, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Caspar. I became a campaigner because I understand the science, the climate and ecological crisis. That means that business as usual will bring civilizational collapse within decades if we don't take radical action swiftly. Voting alone won't change our course. Petitions don't work. Marches don't work. I'm a father. I tried to be a responsible father too, but I feel like I've nothing left but peaceful direct action to bring in the change that we need. Until recently I was a transport campaigner, then I joined Extinction Rebellion. When I joined Extinction Rebellion, I learned a lot of things, and one of the things that I learned is that the media is the top target to require the change that we're to see in the change that we need. The media control the population's social permissions, the Overton window. The media determines the public narrative. With that in mind, I got involved with the Murdoch action, blocking Murdoch's printing press. It's the largest printing press in the world. It can print at a rate of 1 million an hour. Out of there comes the Times, the Sun, the Telegraph, the Evening Standard, the Metro, and this printing press has one small service road getting into it. So it was quite obvious what we had to do. 52 of us designed a plan with 2 vans, 2 structures, and a whole load of block-ons to road. And we blocked that road for 14 hours, which stopped millions and millions of the corporate media's press from being delivered around the country. We kicked them where it hurt, clearly. The establishment really sat up and took notice. We know that because Patel put out a statement saying an attack on our press is an attack on our democracy. Boris Johnson put out a statement, a public statement, and there was hours of debate about it in the House of Commons. In the month after, so we did this on the 5th of September, by the end of September, 5 meetings had happened with Murdoch. Johnson had met Murdoch twice, Patel had met him once, Gove met him once, and Rees-Mogg met him once. And they were clearly talking about this police bill, this police and protest bill. Labour don't come off much better. Labour in the House of Commons inferred that there wasn't enough inside information to stop this action from happening in the first place. Our press isn't free. It's run by oligarchs. It's run by 4 offshore climate change denying, tax avoiding billionaires. They've controlled which party is in power since Thatcher deregulated the press in the 80s to allow Murdoch to buy the Times to add to his stable that already included the Sun. It's a bit too loud.
No.
If this bill goes through, then being too loud will equate to 10 years. But the bill hasn't gone through yet. They've controlled which party is in power since the 80s, basically. The papers have, particularly Murdoch. Murdoch warns John Major that without change, his newspapers would not support the Conservative government. Murdoch later told Blair, once he got him into power, that Murdoch later told Blair that he would support everything that New Labour did to the hilt. Absolutely everything. Once in power, Murdoch demanded that Blair wouldn't join the euro without a referendum. The currency. He knew he could win a referendum, and now we know he was right. We want a free press in the UK, not one controlled by a handful of white, climate change denying old men. Okay? If you think I'm loud on my own, say with me, free our press!
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 Not only is peaceful protest a democratic right, it's a sign of a healthy democracy. Peaceful direct action works. We know it works. History is littered with peaceful direct action that works. Fawcett and the suffragists, Martin Luther King, Gandhi are all good examples. There are more recent examples. Stop the Kinderboard in the Netherlands is why they've got the bike lanes that they've got. A school teacher decided that 3.5 children being killed on the road by drivers in 1 year was not good enough. Within 10 years, they changed the way they designed their built environment over there. The boys at Iska School decided that it was wrong that they weren't allowed to wear shorts to school. So they all turned up in skirts. And it worked. They can now wear shorts to school. And Extinction Rebellion were the #1 influencer globally on climate change in 2019. And along with Fridays for Future, they enabled the Parliament, the UK Parliament, to declare a climate emergency. And following that, 74% of local authorities also declared a climate emergency, many of whom have set targets, zero carbon targets of 2030. So this police and protest bill is a further step towards an authoritarian government. It's the government's overreaction to Extinction Rebellion and Fridays for Future. It's the government's overreaction to the Broxbourne action when we blocked that press. This was exacerbated further by the vigil on Clapham Common. After the tragedy of Sarah Everard's death, Cressida Dick, who is in charge of the Met Police, has a direct line. She's unique in police chief constables in the UK. She's a chief commissioner and she has a direct line to Priti Patel. And she sent the police in to disrupt that vigil in Clapham, and the police were too heavy-handed, and we all saw how brutally they were arresting the women at that peaceful vigil. And what the government weren't prepared for was the kickback from that vigil. That spooked the government. Up until that point, the bill was being rushed through the House of Commons at a lightning speed. It was already at its second reading within a week. And that kickback to that vigil meant that the government pushed the bill back to autumn or early winter. So again, direct action works. Peaceful direct action works. If that bill passes, people here can be arrested for attending this. All media buildings will be reclassified as critical infrastructure. So obviously, Murdoch, having spoken to the key members of the cabinet, has been key in this entire police and protesting bill. If a protest has the potential to cause annoyance, it can be shut down. Police can shut down any protest they want. It's going to be a completely subjective decision that the chief of the police makes, whoever is in charge of that area at that time. If someone pops a Mohican made of grass on the statue of Churchill or sprays war criminal on a statue of Buller, they will get a longer prison sentence than a rapist or someone who assaults an emergency worker. This is not how democracy works. This is not how we secure a peaceful future for our kids. This is not how we guarantee a habitable planet for future generations. I say whose media, you say our media. Whose media?
Our media.
Whose media?
Our media.
Whose police?
Our police.
Whose future?
Our future.
Whose future?
Our future.
Thank you very much.